Hello and welcome to another Album of Record podcast. I'm Craig, joined as always by Andrew. How's it going, Andrew?
It's going okay, Craig. It's been a stressful week, lots of things going on, but I'm happy to be here and talking about music. And
This is my reprieve, man. I look forward to this conversation where even the stuff we complain about is better than all the stuff that I complain about when I'm not doing this podcast.
that is so true. So very, very true. But yeah, I know we've got a lot to talk about today, but I did want to start off because it's really been bothering me. We talked about disco a few episodes back, and we were trying to think of other genres that were like disco that came out of nowhere, had a huge success, and then just disappeared. And we couldn't really come up with any. And I'm going to preface this by saying I already know the fundamental issues with flaws with my argument. This is not exactly like disco, but I actually have one that I think is interesting. But I don't actually know if it's a genre.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here it is. What about boy bands?
Oh.
Now, I don't know that boy band is a genre exactly.
I think it's almost a genre as much as disco is.
Okay. Because that is true. Like disco is just almost as much about the style and image as it is the what they call four on the floor or whatever they call that style. But so I realized that yes, we had New Kids on the Block in the 80s, got hugely popular, and then nothing from boy bands for a while. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere comes Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and then 98 Degrees.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there was a whole, what was the
and
you
the
remember
greatest
MTV?
the greatest worst boy band of all time was LFO because of Summer Girls, the worst lyrics in the history of music, potentially.
That's right. I forgot about that one. But I was trying to think of, remember I think it was MTV, did a parody show about a boy band. It had Chris Farley's brother in it. Oh, it was so good. It was legit really funny, but I'm never going to remember what it is.
Chris Farley's brother, Kevin Farley.
Yeah.
Together. The number two
Together.
and Together.
Yes, it was so good, dude. It was so good.
I never watched that.
It was funny. It was very well done. Very like on the nose parody, but it was great.
I'm sure it's streaming on Paramount, Peacock, something or other.
Somewhere. But if you think about it, it had a serious moment. Like, TRL was like all boy bands and Britney Spears. But like it was this thing that was so huge. But like, when's the last time there's been an actual like popular boy band?
Right. Well, and it went even before New Kids with like Menudo. There was like the 80s versions. Good call. It could crop up again, and maybe somebody who understands K-pop better than you and I do might say that it still exists in other countries.
That's a good call too. I didn't think about K-pop.
But no, I wonder if we'll ever get another boy band craze. I mean, if we had to bet money, and I had kind of forever as my timeline, I would bet that yes, it'll come back at some point, but it might not.
I mean, the money's going to be on yes, but like, I kind of would want to almost bet no, because like I feel like there's a certain degree of manipulation that was exposed about that whole scene.
Yeah, that would dude make Perlman.
Yes, that would make it very hard for it to happen again organically. It's you never say never, obviously, but like I just have a hard time imagining that. But like I almost wonder if like it having a couple waves of boy bands. I mean, there have been like little mini waves of disco like revival. Like people have brought that back as an influence and stuff. It's never lived up to its peak again. And that could be a same thing here where maybe that late 90s or early 2000s, whenever that was. I guess that's probably late 90s, right? Like 98, 99, around there. Maybe that's
reggae?
The peak.
Do we ever bring up reggae?
Oh.
And I know there's always going to be a little bit of reggae out there, but like, it's not, I don't know.
I suppose the difference is like, it wouldn't shock me to have like a Grammy given out for the best reggae. That's not crazy to me. Whereas like, like disco, it was crazy. They did it. That's why we had mentioned it, because they did it that one time the Grammys gave out a Grammy for
and
best
to
disco.
your point, the
And I don't know if
Grammys
they
will
would
never create an award for a
for best
niche
boy band
genre ever again, because now
Yeah.
they've got it covered with pop, hip hop.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the Grammy categories are, but it's covered.
There's I mean, they got alternative rock, metal, like all that too. Even like it would be hard to imagine them doing like a K-pop, like getting that specific or granular.
Yeah, because you could honor the K-pop in best male pop vocal or best female pop vocal,
right?
or whatever the categories are.
What's that big K-pop? BTK, is that what it is?
Wasn't that the BTK Killer?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure I'm wrong, but there's that huge K-pop band that but I would bet that there's a decent chance they've won Grammys already for
BTS.
BTS. Yeah,
it's funny that you named it the serial killer.
That one letter being different makes a big difference.
That one letter is one letter important? I mean, come on.
Apparently it is. It's like the Oxford comma. Sometimes it really matters.
Yeah, punctuation matters.
Yeah.
No, I like it. It's not there's never going to be a perfect analog to the disco thing, but
I feel like
I like where you're going.
Right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I was pretty happy when I thought of that. I was excited to talk about it because I'm like, I know it doesn't work perfectly, but like there are some similarities, and it's definitely a fad, a craze, whatever you want to call it. Like it's hard to envision it coming back around anytime soon.
But it's also a cultural phenomenon in as much as, and I've seen it with my 12-year-old son, with, who's filled that role is like Taylor Swift, where all the girls love Taylor Swift. And when I was a kid, it was really fun to hate New Kids because the girls loved it when I wasn't girl crazy yet. And so you always need a musical an artist or something in music to fill that gap where the girls love it and the immature boys are like, you never stop talking about X. And right now it's Taylor Swift. Little boys hate Taylor Swift.
Okay, interesting.
Because little girls love Taylor Swift.
Like I remember some girls in my school like all talking about Vanilla Ice. And I remember thinking like, I just remember thinking like, there's no way that guy is actually cool. And I feel like time has vindicated my stance and that I was proven right about that.
But there's always like that little gender rivalry where little boys are like, that stuff that the girls like is stupid, and vice versa.
For sure.
Usually it's forever and ever. It's wrestling for boys. The girls are like, wrestling is dumb. It's all fake, right?
I remember there was a girl in my grade school that I kind of liked who was really into Dan Marino, and it drove me nuts. Like I was just like, God, there's no way. Like that guy's.
She was really into isotoner gloves,
I guess, So, but it is kind of funny, but yeah. But I also I haven't done it in a while, but as a party trick, I at least used to have the entire lyrics of Ice Ice Baby memorized, and I could rap it at a party. But I haven't tried it in a while, so I don't know if I still remember it. But that was
I think I could still once upon a time. But we're not going to do
the whole thing beginning to end. You think you still got it?
I think I could. I mean, certainly I could do it with a sing along, but I don't know if I could do it just cold.
All right, Craig, stop.
No, that's not. I'm not doing it. Yeah, collaborate and listen. No, we're not doing it. That'd be really funny if we tried to trade lines back and forth until one of us screwed it up. If we were really committed to the bit, we would do it just to embarrass ourselves. But I'm not.
But we're not. We're not.
No.
We got other more interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so we're going to go for something really lighthearted and fun to something really depressing and sad and gross. So I'll let you introduce the topic.
Yeah, okay. There's a hardcore band called Gel. GEL. They reached like a decent amount of like notoriety and success. They were really well liked. And
they were
really
supposed to tour this year with Spirit Box, which is a big tour for a band like Gel.
Yep. And, They really highly respected by their peers, by fans, like by all accounts, everybody thought of them as well, and then for most of the band, they still probably do consider them, good people, defenders of the cause, all that stuff. Well,
artistic integrity.
Yep. It turns out like over the past year, maybe they haven't been playing live with their original guitarist. And, nothing was ever really said about, why that happened or anything. It was just a thing. Anthony Webster was his name. He was just not playing with the band anymore. And people were kind of like, well, that's strange. And we found out today why. The band put out an Instagram post basically saying the band is no more, Gel has broken up. And the reason is entirely because of the actions of their former guitarist. And
do you want me to read some of the statement?
Yeah, go ahead if you have it up.
All right. The statement from Gel is, here are some of the examples of what he's done. He's stolen and we'll do these one by one. He's stolen tens of thousands of dollars from us. And the best part is that he left it all on record for us to eventually find. He spent it on his own rent, personal food orders, and really whatever else he wanted to. There's more, but so he stole a bunch of money.
And like this one, I'll admit my first reaction was, man, how can you guys have it so that just one person has control of the finances? That seems like a recipe for disaster. What's wrong with you? And then like I thought of some like other situations in my life in which, I've actually been in that exact situation where I was in a partnership with something and, one person is just by default, hey, I'll handle the finances. And you're like,
who set up the accounts?
Yeah. And, and you don't think anything of it. And then you come
the
to
way
find
banks work, by the way, everyone's got to be there in person to sign. Otherwise, it's whoever signed up for the account is the only signer on the account. And that's just how it goes.
Correct. Yep. And so I've actually kind of been guilty of this myself. And it's easy to see how that can happen. When you're in a partnership with people you think are friends, you just don't really think about it. You really don't. You just trust, like, well, why would they take money out of this? Like this is our livelihood. Like, why would you take money out of this
Same
thing
team,
that is
man.
our livelihood? Team. Yeah. And we're all, pulling in the same direction here. And you don't really think about it and many times until it's too late. And
we've seen this countless times. How many times do you read your local news and like a homeowners association has a treasurer who absconded with a bunch of money, or like a nonprofit or whatever else? It happens all the time. A single treasurer, single point of contact, and bad things sometimes happen with the money.
Yeah, and the thing I said to you earlier today, like it really is disheartening to me, just in general. Like in life, this has nothing to do with a band, but just in life, anywhere anybody sees an inch that they can take, they take that inch and then they take a foot beyond that, and then eventually a mile. And like, it almost seems like just we all like want to think that we're good people and that we do the best things, but it's like, it's astounding how many times somebody who you might think is a good person gets put in a situation in which they can take advantage of something. And it just seems like they overwhelmingly do it. And it's just a bummer, like in a scene, like not just hardcore, but like any music scene, like these are communal like experiences. These are all artists. These are people who are, like you said, all supposed to be on the same team here. And so it's really frustrating to see this, that people would take advantage. Like you always expect it from like the suits, right? Like the producers and the labels. You expect them to maybe try to take money, the manager or whatever. You don't expect it from a fellow band member inside the band, and that's the part that like really sucks.
Well, and there's another angle to it as well, because none of these bands start out with the idea that they're actually going to be successful and actually make money. Because I had a local band and I was the one who organized all the business things. And whenever we got paid for a gig, which wasn't all that often, sometimes we only made like $50 or we sold a little bit of merch. The cost to record our demos, the cost to do all the things, we never actually made any money. It was a total expensive hobby for me personally in every way, shape, or form, between, I always put up the money to get the CDs printed. In those days, it was printing CDs and stickers and all that kind of stuff. But then by the time the band actually makes money, and well, the person in this case, the guy who set up the accounts and everything, you just never get around to establishing all the proper protocols and things that you need in place to make sure this doesn't happen.
You know, like I was just thinking, like, you know, if we ever were able to monetize this YouTube channel, I would easily see myself being like, well, Craig, if you just want to handle that, because, you know, the YouTube account's in your name. So, like, if you just want to handle that, like, I would have no problem doing it. And I trust you and believe that you wouldn't take the money. But, like, now, like, after this, it's like, I don't know. Maybe we would need to do something different. I don't know. Like,
but I'm also the guy who would take screenshots and prove the accounts at all times.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be careful who your business partners with, you know?
Yeah. But the point is, like, as much as, like, when you read these things after they've happened, it always seems so obvious. You think, how could you be so stupid? And my point with that is just, like, again, I could just see how, even after reading this, honestly, like, if tomorrow you were like, hey, YouTube allowed us to monetize it, like, I'll just set up, you know, an account for it. My response to you would just be, cool, sounds good, awesome, like, this is great, you know, like, I just wouldn't think anything of it. And so I just want to, like, reemphasize that, of, like, it's easy to be judgmental after the fact, but when you're in it, you just don't see it coming. You know, trust is just a funny thing like that.
All right, and then it gets darker. So now I'm quoting again from their statement. He posted nude images of band members on Reddit for the world to see. Yep, just casually for who knows what purpose. Let that one really sink in. He did that all while still in a band with us too, by the way. I don't even know how to respond to that one.
I don't either. It's such a breach of trust, obviously, but, like,
probably
even
criminal.
Even logistically, like, what is he trying to gain from that? Is it just for, like, internet clout? Like, did he do it under, like, a burner account to try to, like, get some cred to prove that, you know, he knew the people in the band? I mean, I literally,
or he was trying to create some of that Kardashian level fame for them in a backdoor kind of a way.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I don't know.
And I don't want this to sound like, you know, when you try to apply a reason to it, it's like you're trying to apply logic to it. And I don't want to, like, gloss over the fact of just how violating this is truly. Like, this is,
because coming up with a reason sounds like we're almost trying to justify it or something.
Yeah,
and that's,
like,
it's really gross.
Though if there was a good reason, you could be like, oh well, that's okay, that's why he did it. Like, no, it's entirely violating. It's wrong in every way. So I don't want to make it sound like we're justifying it or anything like that, but that's just where it, like, makes your mind reel, even not being in it, you know, trying to just understand the mentality of a person who would do this. But
yeah, good people always try and find the logic in some of the evil stuff that people do, because you're like, well, what's the upside? Why would you do that? You know?
Right, because you can't imagine doing it, you know?
No.
So you're just trying to figure out, like, that you think, like, oh, there has to be a reason, like, as if, like, just, hey, he's a giant piece of shit isn't a good enough reason to do it, right?
And I don't mean to laugh, but that it just made me laugh when you called him a giant piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the reason. That's why he did it. I mean, you know.
Yeah. Next, he put us in physically dangerous situations numerous times, from talking shit on the band Twitter and getting our van window smashed in with a baseball bat to regularly driving erratically like a psychopath because he was, quote, upset for, again, who knows what reason. Sounds like this dude was just like a crazy, volatile person that they kind of dealt with because he could play guitar.
And it's just so fascinating because, like, I'm not going to sit here and say I was a huge Gel fan and listen to them all the time, but I did listen to them and I did enjoy their music. And I was at least familiar enough with them to know, like, the reputation of him was not this at all. I mean, you know, he didn't look like your stereotypical hardcore musician. A lot of hardcore is, for better or for worse, it's the imagery of these jacked dudes, right? Like hyper masculine, testosterone fueled. They lift weights, they're
Well,
all
there's a
just
stereotype.
jacked out of their mind. And this guy was not that. He was chubby. He seemed like a nerd, like he just was counter to all of that. And he had fostered sort of this like everyman reputation that like made it seem like he would have been a great guy to hang out with. And you just realize like what a monster he actually was.
Yeah. Well, and those are the main parts of the accusations.
Yeah,
And
there
then
is
obviously
more, but it's
yeah.
I did want to touch on too, though. I believe they said
Well, the rest
they
of it was let's not shortchange it. The rest of it was just like manipulative, emotional abuse type stuff, and I don't want to
yeah
gloss it over. It's just hard to nail it down to an incident per se. It's just like
right
the general malaise of abuse.
right. But I did want to touch on too. I believe later in the thing they in the statement they said something along the lines of like people will try to say, well, why did you stay in the band for so long, or something along
Here,
those
let me
lines.
read
The
that
whole
that section.
okay.
Why didn't you just leave? If you've ever been in an abusive relationship emotionally and or physically, you'll probably understand this better. It's like that, but with your life's work and passion at the forefront as well. It's not so easy to just give up on something that you care so much about, especially with pressures from outside organizations, people, etc., that are counting on you in some way. We wish that this could have all been easier, and we wish that it didn't have to end this way. We're fighters, though, and we saw it through to the very end until simply we couldn't go on anymore, and we're proud of that.
Yeah, and that really like kind of like hit home for me a little bit in terms of now. I need to be perfectly clear. Like, I'm not emotionally abused at work or anything like that. I'm not trying to put this on that level of severity, but like, I kind of get it from the standpoint of, I've had a couple things at work happen where, things happen where I felt like I wasn't treated with the degree of respect that maybe I felt like I had earned at the company. And when that happens, I think a lot of people would stand up for themselves and go find another job or whatever. And like my reaction is, man, but I really love this job and I want to keep doing this job, and I'll just, suck it up and, deal with it. And like that's kind of been my whole mantra my whole life. Like I've always been the type of person that tries to just roll with the punches. Like, I don't hold grudges. I don't know, like I'm very non-confrontational, in general. Like I like to be agreeable. And as a result, like people will say things sometimes that I completely disagree with, and I'll just nod my head and agree with it because I don't want to get in a confrontation or, whatever. Like all of these things make it easy for me to see how this can happen. Like again, it's so easy to judge when you're on the outside and say, how could you ever let this happen to you? And like, why wouldn't you quit? But I think it's just so different when it's actually happening to you and you're in that situation. It's hard to stand up to authority. It's hard when it's your friends and people that you're close with. It's hard to tell them that you think they're doing a bad thing. At least I've always found it to be the case. Like I have a hard time if my friends do something I don't think is right. Like I have a hard time, I won't necessarily all go along with it, but like but it's a hard thing for me to be like, hey, I think you're acting like a scumbag here. Like so, you know, I I just you kind of understand a little bit how this can happen, how you can be in this situation, but I also can understand why then when you finally get to that breaking point, like why they had to just dissolve the band. Like it becomes too much. All these things I'm talking about are a drop in the bucket. Like I'm not at all trying to compare anything I've been through in my life to what they went through in this situation, especially the nude photos being spread on Reddit. Like I just I can't even imagine. So I'm not trying to justify, or I mean I'm not trying to compare anything that's happened to me to that. I'm just trying to show some empathy and understanding and how you can be in that situation, and that we shouldn't be so judgmental of people who find themselves in these situations.
Well, and to your point, like at least the stuff that I've seen has been very compassionate and understanding in terms of the reaction online.
Yep.
You know, in some like nobody's calling them cowards from what I've seen or anything like that. Everybody seems to understand where they're coming from, and I hope maybe they can like take a little bit of time. Maybe they can find a way to, maybe it's a different band with a different band name, but for whatever love they got out of making the art and doing the thing and connecting with fans all over the world, I hope they can find a way to get that back, because they don't deserve to lose all that just because of this guy.
Yeah, I think the easiest thing would be to like just start a new band and not play any of the Gel songs anymore, if particularly ones written by Anthony.
If that's the way they need to do it, but if they want to own those songs still, they should absolutely do it.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't, but you can understand where like
totally
it might like be a bummer to like go out and play these songs that this guy wrote that treated you so horribly and listen to an audience just cheer and lose their minds for that art that was created by this guy that, you can just get where like maybe they would prefer that separation and just say like, let's just do something else. So,
all right.
But we like the music world, man. Like we got to stop having these things, like these types of articles. I'm tired of talking about these. Like I think they're important to talk about, but man, I'm tired of talking about them. Like this happens far too frequently in music and sports and everything. Like again, just be better. Be better, people.
Yeah, we're a couple of Browns fans, and we haven't been able to talk about just football in probably over a decade, between the owner ripping off certain ethnicities, truck drivers, and then obviously a quarterback who's accused of all kinds of horrible things. Anyway, we go from that to a little bit more lighthearted topic, which is funny, but Guns N' Roses in the news. They've swapped out their drummer, which is kind of like, is this news?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about this. So Frank Farrar, I don't know how it's pronounced actually. I was shocked to see he had been their drummer for like 20 years. I had no idea it had been that long.
Let's just call him not Matt Sorum. Okay.
Yeah. So they announced that he left the band, and like I had a couple like weird reactions to it. Like I said, my first reaction was shocked that he had been in the band for that long. But then like my other reaction is like, what does this even mean? Like to be a member of Guns N' Roses? Like is Guns N' Roses actually a functional band in 2025? Their last album, Chinese Democracy, came out in 2008. Does that sound right? 2008?
Maybe 2008. Maybe you nailed it.
2008. Like, so we are getting close to coming up on 20 years since that album came out, which was not even a very good album, in my opinion. But like, they do still play shows, I guess. And I guess that's what the gig is now, is just playing shows. I looked up earlier, Slash rejoined the band in 2017, I believe. So
yeah, 2016 to the present.
2016. So think about that. It's almost been a decade of getting Slash back in the band. And what they put out, I think they maybe put out like one song at one point.
Yeah, I don't know.
They put out one song, but maybe not even that. Maybe that was an old song that predated even Slash. I don't know. And so it was just kind of funny to like think about like, what does Guns N' Roses even mean today? Like, what are Guns N' Roses? Are they a band? Are they like, it almost feels like it's very like Spinal Tap-ish. Like, it just seems like they're like a mockumentary thing of a band. It's like, like it's like watching Ted Lasso for the soccer, like where like soccer is the background, but like, and like sometimes you might see like a little clip of somebody playing soccer, but like you're not actually watching soccer. And I feel like with Guns N' Roses, that's kind of like the effect with the music. Like they look like a band, and sometimes you might see a clip of them playing something or hear a clip of something, but like the entity itself is like not about the music anymore, or making new music. So
because on top of that, the Illusion albums come out in 91, and those are essentially, for all practical purposes, their last record.
Real albums. Yeah,
the last one that anybody cares about. But at the same time, I'm looking, and it's Axl, Duff, Slash, and Dizzy are all still there, and they've got a new drummer.
More like the original band today than it's ever been. But like, what are they doing with it? Like, It's so wild to me that they've been, sort of reformed like this for so long, and like they're not even an EP. Like not even a
And
couple tracks.
I saw them on one of those tours back when they came back. Probably the Not in This. I think I went to the Not in This Lifetime tour, which spanned 2016 to 2019,
Okay.
and I'd never gotten a chance to see them, and so for me, it was kind of cool to see them live, but it was also a little bit depressing and just kind of like checking the box for me as a fan. But
Yeah.
Slash still played really well, and he looked like he was in really good shape and enjoying himself. And so, like, I don't want to get in the way of anybody's good time. The fans seemed to really have a great time. But yeah, it was a weird scene. It wasn't as weird as when I saw Stone Temple Pilots with Jeff Gutt as the replacement singer.
Yeah.
But even that is a situation where somebody passed away. So I kind of get it. The DeLeo brothers and Eric Kretz deserve to keep going if they
Yeah.
want.
It's just like I don't know how many other bands could go so long since putting out relevant music and people still caring about a drummer who didn't even play drums on any. I don't even know if I don't think he played on
I don't think
Chinese
so either.
Democracy. So a drummer who's been in the band for almost 20 years but never actually.
Didn't
Well,
Josh Freese play on Chinese Democracy?
see, that's kind of what I was thinking. Or I actually think it might have been multiple drummers who played on it. So like, how many bands can have this be a noteworthy thing?
Brain played drums. Frank did play some drums on Chinese Democracy.
Okay. So he did get some credits.
But Tommy Stinson played some bass guitar on that record. Buckethead, Bumblefoot, Robin Fink.
Isn't that amazing? Like just that collection of names. Like it's such a hodgepodge potpourri of an album. And that's why the album's not very good, by the way.
And Josh Freese is credited with some arrangements.
Oh, okay. All right. But yeah, no. So
crazy.
So again, like just to think about this, that you've got a band that hasn't put out, I would say, a truly relevant album since 1991. Haven't put out any album since 2008. And yet they can still dominate headlines for changing drummers. I mean, I saw this headline on 4 or 5 different outlets, and it's just amazing to me. Like Guns N' Roses are like the only band I can really think of in this way in our timeline, in our lifetime, that like the aura of Guns N' Roses is so much bigger than what the actual music itself was. I mean, if you're like really boiling it down, like what is essential Guns N' Roses? Like it's Appetite and the two Use Your Illusions.
I would put
like,
Lies in too, but that's me.
Lies is fine, but like I don't know that I consider it to be like essential to Guns N' Roses. Like
any album that gives us Patience has to be considered essential.
Yeah, but anyways, we won't get into some of the problematic things about Lies, but anyways, I'll digress from that. I'll just say, like, I just think it's kind of cool, like that we have this thing, like that's like a music, like Guns N' Roses is almost like a traveling museum of like what like rock and roll decadence is supposed to be and forever will be. Like they are, when God painted what a rock band should look like, he painted Guns N' Roses. Like it's so much bigger than what the actual music output is. And it just seeing this article just reminded me of that today. And I just find it so interesting.
All right. So now we're going to finish with the latest incarnation, the 2025 edition of Lollapalooza, which...
All right. So, we got to have some, who's the cross bearers for Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins, all these great iconic bands that built up the legacy of Lollapalooza. Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think Nine Inch Nails did it. Jane's Addiction, obviously. So
Tool and Rage.
Yeah. All right. So who we got? Who's carrying that cross?
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Headlining on Thursday night, Tyler, the Creator, and Luke Combs.
Okay.
I'm trying to even read some of the small print. I'm old. I need reading glasses, I guess. Cage the Elephant, I've heard of.
Okay. There we go.
Have I heard of anybody else? Nope, haven't heard of anybody else, really. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but that's fine. All right, let's go to Friday. You ready?
All right. So, okay, Thursday, just a little warm up. Like, Friday's going to be the real day. Who's bringing this essential, cutting edge next wave of rock music? Who we got?
Carrying the torch for Lollapalooza is Olivia Rodrigo and Korn. Korn did play a Lollapalooza I went to, by the way.
Did they really?
They did. They played a Lollapalooza when Tool was on the second time.
Okay.
And Snoop Dogg was on that one too.
All right, that makes sense.
And you and I, by the way, you and I like Olivia Rodrigo.
I was just going to say, we are not here to put down Olivia Rodrigo. We are Olivia Rodrigo fans. She is incredibly talented.
And if they ever sold a special edition of the purple acoustic guitar that she plays, I would buy it. Let me buy that.
Yeah. So this is nothing negative about any of these artists per se. It's really just more of, this is Lollapalooza, of course.
So the small print bands, you got Bleachers, T-Pain, Foster the People.
Jeez.
I'm really squinting to read the small print here. Yeah, that's about it.
I don't even know, like...
I've heard of Delwater Gap. Jane Remover's on there.
Okay. Like, Jane Remover is at least something cutting edge.
Yeah. All right, you ready for Saturday?
All right. I can't even do the bit.
I don't even know where the artist names stop and begin on this headliner. And maybe that just speaks to my decrepit age. Rufus Du Sol Twice. I assume that's two different artists.
Sure. I have no idea. That's it? That's the headliner?
Those are the headliners for Saturday. Are we just really old?
We have to be.
Well, we are, but also, like, who are they?
I just cannot get over that this is under the Lollapalooza banner. Is this still Perry Farrell? Is he still controlling it?
Ever since he broke up Jane's Addiction by fighting physically with members on stage, I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, so I even wonder, like, who's setting this lineup? Like, who's controlling the name, image, and likeness of Lollapalooza today? Whoever it is, I don't think they quite got the assignment, as people like to say.
All right, so let's see. How many Spotify monthly listeners, does Rufus Du Sol have? You have a guess?
I have no idea. I couldn't even guess.
9.3 million monthly listeners.
Wow. And what's the other one then? So is that a band? This is rock?
They've got 10.1 million monthly listeners.
Wow.
All right, maybe we're just old, dude.
So Twice band. If I search that.
Twice is a K-pop girl group.
It's a girl group. Oh my God. Full circle. This is the next wave. No more boy bands, but we've got girl groups. K-pop.
All right. So Sunday, your final night of Lollapalooza, the non-traveling festival that plays in Chicago every year. We got Sabrina Carpenter and A$AP Rocky. I've at least heard of both of them.
Yes. Good. Actually, like, good headliners. Like, for, like, a standard, like, modern festival, like, those are good headliners.
You may not like Sabrina Carpenter, but she's a big get.
Absolutely. And I'm actually relatively pro Sabrina Carpenter as well. Like, when it comes to that kind of, like, pop music, like, I find what she's doing, I think I've talked about this before, but I find, like, her take on, like, sexuality and what she's doing to be interesting, if nothing else. I don't, like, look, I'm not putting on Sabrina Carpenter's music to listen to or anything like that, but I just find what she's doing interesting. But A$AP Rocky is one of my favorite rappers. So, and
he's got almost 38 million monthly listeners.
Yeah, and he's had an album that was supposed to come out like August or September of last year that still hasn't come out, and we still don't have a release date for it. So I don't even know, like, maybe.
All right, some of the small print, superstar kind of DJ producer Martin Garrix. I like some of the stuff he's produced. One of my favorite Canadian Americana bands. Are they country? Wild Rivers. I really love them. You don't like them. I've made you listen to them before. I don't think it went well. And remember, let's see. It doesn't make any sense that she's playing on Sunday. We've got Rebecca Black.
Really? Rebecca Black. Wow.
She's going on tour with Katy Perry this year too.
Wow. Like, how is she still relevant?
She had kind of a comeback, and she took control of Friday and really kind of owned it.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, like, good for her. I mean, I'm happy for her, but
yeah,
that's just never would have seen that one coming.
Yeah, and I don't think I really see anybody else of note.
I wonder,
that you and I would know.
I would love to see what the crowd looks like. And I promise you it looks much, much, much different than when people were going to get a glimpse of Pearl Jam and Soundgarden coming together and playing Hunger Strike on stage at Lollapaloozas across the country.
Did you ever go to a Lollapalooza?
No, I never did.
Really? I only ever went to the one. I had a friend who went to the one of the greatest ones, like maybe the second or third one when Pearl Jam played and everything else, but
that was the second one.
I wasn't old enough to be allowed to go to that one at that point.
That was my thing. Like, I grew up, rural Northwest Ohio, middle of nowhere. Like, there was no way I was traveling somewhere for this kind of a festival. But it would have been awesome to have gone for sure. But
I was old enough to drive to the one that I went to with Tool and Korn and Snoop Dogg, and I wonder who else was even on that one.
I don't know. What year did Smashing Pumpkins do it? Was that like, I want to say that was like 95, something like that.
They headlined Lollapalooza in 94.
Okay. Because I know it was like that was kind of like seen as like the tail end of the popularity of Lollapalooza as like the original vision of what it was supposed to be. And then it kind of became something else for a little while. And then it kind of went away, and then it became obscure, and then they brought it back, and now it's not even recognizable as a Lollapalooza.
Yeah. But like 93 was Alice in Chains, Primus, Dinosaur Jr., Fishbone, Arrested Development, Front 242, Babes in Toyland, Tool, and Rage.
What a great lineup.
94 was Smashing Pumpkins, Beastie Boys, George Clinton, The Breeders, Tribe Called Quest, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, L7, Boredoms, and Green Day. I forgot that Green Day did it.
Yep. By the way, real quick, it appears that in 2005, Perry Farrell and the William Morris Agency partnered with Austin, Texas-based company Capital Sports Entertainment, now C3 Presents, and retooled the event into its current format as an annual festival in Chicago. In 2014,
are you saying they sold out?
Well, so here we go. In 2014, Live Nation Entertainment bought a controlling interest in C3 Presents.
Do they own anything else, or is this all
just this small little startup, Live Nation, little try-hard company trying to make a name for themselves? How precious!
All right, let's keep going through the years though.
Yeah.
95, we got Sonic Youth, Hole, Cypress Hill, Pavement, Sinead O'Connor, Elastica, Superchunk, Moby, Beck, the Jesus Lizard, and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Like, again, like this is where like Lollapalooza was still like trying to find these things that were between the cracks of like just under the surface of what was relevant, not relevant, but popular, just under the surface of what was popular at that time. Like, whether it be a Pavement, a Hole, Sonic Youth, like these are bands that were culturally important to the scene, but like not widespread. And I just think it was such a cool like mission statement to try to provide a platform for bands like that were just about to break through. And in many ways, Lollapalooza was a vehicle for bands to break through.
All right, 96. I remember this was the year where people are going, oh, really? Is this Lollapalooza? It was Metallica, Soundgarden, Ramones, Rancid, Shaolin Monks, Screaming Trees, and Psychotica.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
And then I didn't realize that I'd gone to the last one before their big break. 97 was the last year before they took a 6-year hiatus.
Okay.
And 96 was Orbital, Devo, The Prodigy, The Orb, Tool, Snoop Dogg, Tricky, and Korn.
Okay.
And then Julian Marley and Damian Marley. And Failure. I forgot James. Remember James with their song Laid?
Laid. Yep. Sure do. That song was huge.
It was, I mean, it's one of the girl songs. Every woman in America loves that song. Like Blister in the Sun or Brown Eyed Girl. It's like a stereotypical girl song, but I love it too.
Hey, you're just trying to bring Van Morrison back to the table here. We got
always, but Van Morrison to me is everything but Brown Eyed Girl.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, let's do a couple more. So they brought it back. They had the resurgence in 2003 with Jane's Addiction, Audio Slave, Incubus, Queens of the Stone Age, A Perfect Circle, Jurassic 5, The Donnas, Rooney, The Distillers.
I remember all those. That's a great lineup.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then everything changed after that.
Like, I'm curious. So the Distillers, Rancid, and Queens of the Stone Age all played on that same Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about the timeline of things because Tim Armstrong was married to Brady Dole. I forget. I just totally messed up her. Brody Dale.
Okay.
And
easy for you to say.
Yeah. And he was married to her. And then at some point she left him for Josh Homme. And then they were married, had kids. And then they had that like horribly bitter divorce that spilled out into public with lots of horrible accusations both ways and lots of ugliness. But I did not, I probably should know this, but like, you know, I don't know. I'm not the type of person that reads up that much on people's personal lives, but I'm curious like where this falls in the timeline of these things. Like, is this where she met Tim, or was she already with Tim on this and this is where she met Josh? Who knows?
All right. So this is actually a great place for us to finish. The first time that they did it at Grant Park in Chicago was 2005. So this is the 20th anniversary of their Chicago residency, if you will. This lineup is just so you can compare the lineup we just read for the 20th anniversary to the first one that they brought back as a, and by the way, it was a great idea to make it a residency in Chicago, but this was the lineup. And there's multiple days, so bear with me here. But Saturday was Liz Phair, Cake, Primus, Weezer, The Ponies, Dinosaur Jr., Drive-By Truckers, and Widespread Panic.
That's such a cool lineup. Like,
actually, that's one stage that was Saturday and Sunday. But
okay.
So, and then this one's really cool. The East Stage, smaller bands at the time, the International Noise Conspiracy, and You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead, Dashboard Confessional, Billy Idol, and the Pixies. That's a cool lineup.
Hell yeah.
And then Sunday was OK Go, Kasabian, Satellite Party, Arcade Fire, and the Killers.
Jeez.
All right. Two more stages to go here. What did I just? Oh, there we go. Sorry. I lost my place. The Warlocks, Kaiser Chiefs, The Bravery, The Black Keys, Diggable Planets.
I remember like the Kaiser Chiefs had a moment where I thought they were going to break through and become big, and it just didn't happen.
And then Sunday was Saul Williams.
Saul Williams is awesome, by the way.
Ben Queller, Spoon, and Death Cab. Did you remember that Death Cab and Ben Queller and Ben Folds, Ben Gibbard, Ben Folds, and Ben Queller had an album called The Bens?
Did they really? I did not know that. I love that.
Was there another Ben in there? No, that was it.
That's pretty awesome.
A rock supergroup consisting of Ben Folds, Ben Queller. Oh, Ben Gibbard was not in there. It was Ben Folds, Ben Queller, and Ben Lee.
Who's Ben Lee?
I used to know. I can't remember. Yeah. He's Australian musician and actor.
Okay. Well, if they ever reunite, your son can apply to join the band.
It's so funny that you mentioned that.
Qualifications.
when you're naming a kid, you're at least in my case, I wasn't really naming him after anybody. I was just checking off the boxes to make sure that there weren't too many detestable Bens.
Yeah.
And the only one that I banned completely was I said that he could never be nicknamed Big Ben because of Ben Roethlisberger. That was just out.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But other than that, I was like, Ben Gibbard, I like him. Ben Foles,
Stiller.
I like him. Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller's awesome.
There's a lot of good Bens.
Yeah. I'm trying to think
just
of some other...
don't call him Uncle Ben either, okay?
Yeah.
That's problematic.
Yeah, well, someday he will be an Uncle Ben.
Well, you got the Uncle Ben from what, Spider-Man?
Yeah,
there are other Uncle Bens, not just the Rice guy. We no longer allow people to be mascots in 2025 for marketing purposes. It's like a total no-go. It's out. All right. Well, at 55 minutes, this threatens to be one of our shortest episodes ever.
Yeah, but boy, did we pack this one. We really did. We covered a lot of ground in this episode.
Yeah, I had a good time. I'm reading band names here, and it just makes me like I really want to see Living Color now.
Yeah,
they're listed on some of the later ones. Anyway,
let's
just name some bands. Yay or nay?
Yeah, I was thinking. No, I was gonna say our next episode we'll actually be able to talk about a new Def Heaven album, but we still have another week yet. Darn. Yeah,
so let's tell everybody what we're talking about next episode. We're continuing our celebration of 30-year record anniversaries, and actually we're doing this one a little bit early because I believe this record came out in June of 1995. We're going to talk about Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to it.
It happened sort of organically because I just happened to listen to it the other day, and I won't say anything about that experience of listening to it for the first time.
Everybody will forget
in a very long time. But it didn't hold up the way I thought it held up. I'll just say that, and whether that means for better or for worse, who knows? We'll find out next week.
Yeah, and I'm actually pretty sure that I'm going to have the opposite opinion, so it should be a fun episode.
There you go. Awesome.
All right, thanks so much for listening and watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Check out our website, albumofrecord.com. It's on Substack, so you can subscribe for free. That just means that you're going to get emails of every episode we put up, and we would greatly appreciate you committing your email address to us so that we can contact you when we feel like it about music and music only.
Yeah, and tell some friends about us.
All right, we'll talk to you next time. It's been the Album of Record podcast.